How's it going again? Okay, so again, what we're looking at here is we're graphing sine and cosine curves. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to pull the information you need in order to be able to graph everything. Essentially, what we need is the amplitude, the period, the phase shift, and the vertical shift. And I'm going to show you, based on this equation here. So I'm going to write that down right here so you can kind of see it and makes it a little bit better. And again, yes, it says a sine curve, but the way you do it is similar to that for a cosine curve. So that's kind of the nice thing. Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and hide this right now. All right. So the amplitude, I think, here's the thing. The two easiest ones to do are the amplitude and the vertical shift, because the vertical shift, if I was to label all of these, this would be A, B, C, and D. And so the amplitude essentially is the A value, which is this guy right here. Okay. So I know my amplitude is going to be 4. And I'll show what that means here in a second. I'm going to go ahead and graph it too while I'm at it. I also know that my vertical shift is 3. So I know that's going to be a plus 3 up in terms of moving that equilibrium line. So now the period and the phase shift. Okay. The period, essentially the formula for the period is going to be 2 pi divided by b, whatever b is. Well, we know b is right here, and b in this case happens to be 1. Well, that makes it nice because all that means that it becomes 2 pi divided by 1, which means that your period is 2 pi. And what that means is that for one cycle, it's going to extend for a 2 pi length. Okay, and I'll show what that means in a second. The phase shift, again, is based off of c. That just basically means how much we're going to move it left or right. So the formula for that is actually c divided by b. And again, since we know b is 1, we take c, and which is pi divided by 1. And so our phase shift is going to be pi right. And the reason why it's right is because it's a minus pi right here. Okay. And that's your information that you would need. So the amplitude being 4, period is 2 pi, the phase shift is pi right, and plus 3 up on your vertical shift. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and extend this and go ahead and graph it for you so you can kind of see what it looks like. And I'm going to do it in a different way that you have not seen me do it yet. But hopefully this maybe helps for some of you. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw my vertical shift up. Okay, just by doing that. And I'm going to call this y equals 3. Okay. And the reason why I do that is because that's basically telling me that everything that I draw is going to be based off of this equilibrium line at y equals 3. Okay. That means that my amplitude, it tells me that if it's a 4, and this is y equals 3, I'm going to have a max value somewhere up here, y equals 7. Because the difference between 3 and 7 is 4, which is the amplitude. It also means I'm going to have a minimum value somewhere down here at y equals -1. Okay. So that means that my graph is going to go somewhere, between these two lines here. Okay. So now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and place my starting point at pi. And here's kind of the thing that's going to be kind of crazy because you're going to be like, how can you show us this before? Well, it's because I want you to get used to reading graphs. But I'm going to start this at pi. Okay. And because my period is 2 pi, that means that the length from this point to my ending point here has to be, well, if I do pi plus 2 pi more, that means that this has to end at 3 pi. All right. Now, here's kind of the key to all of this. You got to think of it in terms of half of a half. And what that means is that halfway between 3 pi and 2 pi, pi and 3 pi, is this point right here, which happens to be 2 pi, so that you know. Okay. And then halfway between these 2 points, which is going to be here and here, is 3 pi over 2. This is 3 pi over 2. And again, why? Because it's between 1 and 2 is 1.5, and that's 1.5. Halfway between 2 and 3 is actually 2.5. So 2.5, which would be 5 pi over 2. And what that tells me is that I'm going to basically put a maximum point at here and a minimum point here, because now I can actually just draw my graph. And there you have it. Okay. Anyway, so there you have it. That's how you draw a quick sine graph or cosine graph, depending on what you're looking at, based on the 4 parts to it. Yeah, there you go. You have a good day.